Hey everyone, I'm Matt Ford and welcome to another live edition of The Good Trouble Show. We like to go live when we can bring you, the viewer, an opportunity to ask our guests questions at the end of the show. So please put all your questions in the chat in all caps. Now, other than our lovely chat moderators who volunteer their time, we have a crew of one here in the studio and you're looking at them. So, I don't know, hopefully I don't screw this up and the show goes down in flames. Anyway, so with that in mind, please welcome on your left Dr. Beatriz Villarroel, an astrophysicist who studies 70-year-old astronomical photographs and has found hundreds of stars that appear to have, well, vanished. And on your right, Dennis Asberg, a deep-sea explorer who physically dove the mysterious Baltic Sea anomaly in 2011. Let's see, I've got both you guys on there. How are you?
I'm fine here.
Beatriz?
Very honored to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
No, I'm so glad you're here. So Beatriz, this is your third appearance on the Good Trouble Show. And Dennis, I hope this is your first of many appearances because we know that you're up to some really exciting things. So let's see here. So Dennis, I want to start with you. Beatriz we've had on, and we've talked about the plate stuff and all of that, and I'm very interested to hear more about that, of course, which we will later on in the show. And then also towards the end of the show, as I mentioned, we'll be taking questions from the audience. But I don't know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate. I would dress up as Captain Hook from Peter Pan when I was a kid. My dad worked for Delta Airlines, and he had this red jacket that was part of his Delta Airlines uniform, and I would put that on and pretend I was on the seas. So take us back to this Baltic Sea discovery. What were you looking for, and what did you find instead? And what year did this occur? Wow,
it's a long story. Anyway, it's 2011. We found the anomaly. We were on a mission out. I mean, we are treasure hunters. That's what we are doing. We try to find things that nobody else have found. In this case, we're searching for champagne and cognac and liquor of different types we have in the Baltic, and we have a specific wreck we are searching for at that time, 2011. And we have been out for like 10 days, something like that. And we had also problems with the boat, leaking in water in it. So we managed to come to a harbor in Finland and fix the boat. And then after that, we go out again, and we were quite tired at that time. But we were out and searching in a new area that we have never searched before. It's a totally new area, and we did not think we're going to find a wreck there. But it was late in the night, 1, 2 o'clock in the night. We were sitting in front of the screen and look at the data from the side scan sonar. And then this thing popping up on the monitor. And I remember Peter said to me, "Dennis, here's a UFO." And I just, what? This is strange. I mean, have you seen anything like that? No. And then I wake up with other crew members, and they're coming up and look at the screen also. And nobody have seen anything like that. We're talking about thing that is 60 meters in diameter. You can find round things on the sea bottom out in the Baltic Sea. Of course, but then we're talking about 2 to 3, 4 meters in diameter. But now we're talking about 60 meter in diameter. So it was big and strange and odd. So I said to the guys, be quiet about this. Don't talk about that to anybody when we come to the harbor. And we were home and began to look at the data again and talk to our colleagues around the world that we have been working with before and send them the data. And they said, "Oh, what have you found?" I mean, Have you dive on it? No, we have not. So what is it? I don't know. Perhaps you know. And they, no, I have never seen anything like that either. So that's how it started.
And it was completely random that you came across this thing.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was.
Wow. Okay. So you're basically looking for sunken treasure or shipwreck or whatever, and this thing just happened to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is really amazing. It's almost like the universe wanted you to find this thing. As vast as the ocean is, to come across something like that, I think is pretty insane. So this person said to you, "Oh, it's a UFO." When you guys first came upon it, what went through your head? Did you think, what did you think about UFOs? Was that even in your mind at all?
Yeah, if you go back in time, back to 1996, I haven't talked about this before in other pods, but and 1996, I was already then convinced that we have visitors or something strange is happening around us, because I saw something that changed my life totally. Before that, before 96, I did never think about UFO. I was a family father to two teenagers and busy with lots of projects, exploring projects, and also businesses I had. And then one morning, 1996, I wake up and I see something that changed my life totally. And then, 2011. We were out on a mission, as I mentioned, and we found this thing. And when Peter said to me, "Dennis, this is a UFO," I just, okay, yeah, but wait a minute. I mean, have you seen anything? No, like this? No. And then I begin to realize this is a strange thing, and I have never seen anything like that before. So I must investigate it. So we decide to go out again later and look at it. And then with divers, of course, we dive on it, and we use ROV. And we had problems with our equipment. We had problems with the diving data and the ROV and the sonar and even the radar system on the boat when we were on the spot.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And when you would move away from the area, would all of the equipment begin working again?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty nuts. Now, you sent us some photos that we can put up. Now, are these, because I want to get to the part where Beatriz joins in all of this. The photos that you sent, is this PB pre-Beatriz, or is this AB after Beatriz?
No, that's before Beatriz.
Okay. So this is PB. Okay. So yeah. So let's throw some of these photos up now.
No,
actually,
there. No, there you have Beatriz. So
okay, that is Beatriz. All right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll get to that in a minute.
5-0.
Okay. Now, is this after the restaurant? Was this were you walking out with a big bottle of wine from the restaurant, or what is
that?
That
was after we had party just there, and no, that was what was that 2011, 2012 or 13? 13 was it?
Okay.
We found a wreck with wine, red wine. Was on the cargo ship on its way to Russia, to the Russian Tsar.
Okay.
So that wreck sunk 1916.
Wow.
So yeah.
And did you get an opportunity to drink that wine? And if so, how was it?
No, not me, but my son, my oldest son did, and he threw up.
Okay, so I guess you don't want to drink anything from the bottom of the ocean that's been there for a while.
Yeah, of course. In this case, when it's wine, it's very difficult to get it in good condition,
Right.
when even if it's pitch black down there and not so much salt but it's when it's come to cognac and other types, it's much easier.
Got it. Okay, so let's see here. I want to show this. Okay, so is this the boat that you went on?
This is Electra. That's the boat we used this year when we were out. We have been out 2 times this year.
Okay, okay. And actually, I'm going to jump ahead. So this is the Anomaly here, correct?
Yeah, that's the Anomaly.
And
that's the first.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the first side scan sonar picture from 2011.
And when you saw this, did you immediately think, boy, this thing looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars?
No, I did not.
Okay,
No, I did not.
Maybe
But
that's probably just my screwed up brain. So
yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, of course, when I saw it, it's round. It's quite rough surface on it, so it's not a flat object. It's rough, and you have corners, 90 degrees angles, and you have holes on it. So you know, it's sticking out. It's nothing we have seen before in the Baltic.
Okay, and I have here, let's see if I hit the right button here. Nope, we'll do this. So this is a cross section. So explain to us what we're looking at here.
That's a drawing we did when we were out there 2012 to explain that we have a hill, and it's you see this arrow V there, and it looks like it's separated from the bottom, and then you can see the foundation, the hill then.
So this foundation or pillar, did that look man-made, or did that look like a geological feature?
Yeah, the hill or what it's on, it's natural. It's nothing strange with that.
Okay.
What we have seen now, it's very important to manage to explain. This year when we were out, we did sub-button profiling. It's a instrument that you can see all the layers in the at the bottom. It's like a radar.
Okay.
So you can see all the layers. What we can see, not 100%, but we think this thing is separated from the bottom.
Okay, because I see here where you note that you're not able to see where the gap ends.
No, we cannot.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty fascinating. Okay, let's look at let's see. So there's the Anomaly. Now, what is this?
This is a multi-beam pictures. It's a 3D image picture of the object.
And the object is at the left.
Yeah, you see this track on the bottom, and
Okay.
farther away you cannot see it, so it's not a sharp picture but there you can see the Anomaly. But in the beginning of this track we have like a mountain with a canyon, so it looks like it's something that hit this mountain, and then after that was dragging at the bottom for like almost 1,500 meters.
So whatever this thing, it was going pretty. Whatever this thing is, it was going pretty fast when it hit this thing.
Yeah.
And is there any indication, was this during a period in time when this wasn't covered by water? Like, do we know about when this thing would have occurred?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Hopefully this year we can have an answer for that.
Okay.
Because we're gonna do core drillings also.
Okay.
And see, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. We have that, and then let's go to this. Now, what are we looking at here? It looks like some kind of dome.
Yeah, it looks like a dome. I have no clue. It's on the object.
Okay.
So we dived there. Stefan Hogeborn, one of the divers, was down there, and he take the picture of this. And yeah, I don't know what it is really.
Wow. Does it look to you to be any sort of geologic formation that you've seen in your deep sea
No,
exploration?
never. I have
Okay.
never seen anything like that.
Okay.
Not in that place.
Okay. And is this same sort of area?
Yeah, it's the same area on it. And it's loose stones, but it's only on one spot on it. So
Huh.
it's like a ring with loose stones.
So
Uh,
it
uh,
so it doesn't look
Probably maybe not.
random.
No. It's just there.
Wow. Okay. Now there's a second anomaly. I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah. Up there you have A2. An A2 is like 30 meters long and 7 to 8 meters wide. And it looks like a monument of some kind that is laying down. And probably it's apart from this Anomaly 1, then the big one.
Okay.
It looks like that. We are not 100% sure. That is something we're working with also now this year to
Okay.
make sure if it's come from this big thing or is separated totally something else. But that is quite interesting. We were out there together with people from Finland because we did a job out in Finland with colleagues, and they are laughing at me. Dennis, this is just a rock you have found. And I said, yeah, but next time you're going to go out, come with us and look at it yourself with your own equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So and that was good because they did anyway come with us out, and they were out there and used their own ROV, and Peter and I look at each other and waiting for the answer, what he think it is, this Finnish guy. And then after a while he said, "Oh, this is man-made. This is constructed." I had never seen anything like that before. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing, this A2 also.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's look at the next photo here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so that's the same thing. And what is this here?
That's the beginning. Yeah, it's the beginning of the track.
Okay.
Yeah. And there is more. And then, and then
Oh,
you
I
have
see.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I see. As you're moving along there. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Wow. Okay. And then, and how tall is this anomaly?
Let's say between 7 and 10 meters.
Wow.
Not
Okay.
more than that.
So,
But we don't really know. That's how it's what we see now.
okay.
But perhaps, and as you have seen yourself, is separated from the bottom, but we cannot look under it really. And what we have using now is this sub-button profiling, and probably we can get more data from that and see how thick, how big it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. So, okay, what are we looking at here? This is what, some kind of sonar?
Yes, blue view sonar, so real-time sonar we're using on the ROV because it's almost pitch black and it's weird. With a usual camera, you don't see not so far like 30 to 1 meter in front of you. With this live blue view sonar as we're using, we see everything. In this case, you're showing a picture of some kind of hole that is 2 meter in diameter, and it's also a frame around it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And there you have the corridors with the flat walls.
Amazing. So on the left, so where it's bright on the left, that would be a wall of the corridor?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. And
There
then
you have a corner. There you have a corner, 90 degrees angle, and it's perfect. Perfect.
unbelievable.
and there that's the end of it. It is.
Okay.
Yeah. And there you have, yeah. But you remember this data you have now is from 2012 when we were doing an investigation. So now we have much, much better data.
Okay. Okay, let's go through some of these other photos. So we look at that, seen that. Okay, what do we look? Is this that sort of round thing of rocks you were referring to?
No. That is something from another place. But it's quite interesting if you zoom it in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, it's not from the anomaly at all.
Okay. And we've seen this. This is that dome. Yeah. And so just kind of some other views of the anomaly. What about this?
This is very interesting. Yeah, this is cool. This is, if you go to the next picture.
I don't know if this is in order. We'll see.
There you have it.
Okay.
There. Okay, it's the same picture, but I have marked it. If you look there, you see a triangle.
Oh,
you
wow.
See that? And a triangle with a hole in it. And over it, it's this loose sediment over it.
Okay.
But if you scrape it away, it's totally flat. It's like a flat surface. And it's a symbol. It looks like a symbol with straight lines, like a triangle with a hole in it.
And and clearly this is not something that just naturally occurs in nature.
No way. No.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So we've seen that one. Might have some duplicate photos in here. And then we're back to this, which brings us to the lovely Beatriz. So Beatriz, how did you get involved in this? You know, you're known for your astronomy work, which I've mentioned we'll get to a little bit later, but how did an astrophysicist get involved in an undersea expedition?
Well, before I started my PhD studies, when I was a student, I was following the story of Dennis. So these were in the times when I completely didn't care about UFOs. But Dennis' discovery...
The good old
days. Yeah, back in old days. Dennis' discovery was so interesting to me that I followed the whole story. I followed every interview, every update they did. I just wanted to know what it was. I sent an email to Dennis, but I think it was lost among the 100,000 emails you got. So, and... I just wanted to know what it was. I found that super fascinating. And of course, I remember this thing because it had such a major impact on me. And I think I met a lot of other scientists of my generation who have, Dennis had similar impact on them. I think he has inspired more people to do science than most scientists have, actually.
That's awesome.
So that's something like super cool. And of course, I followed the story, and then we didn't get our answers. And I was just like, hey, we need to know what it is. We can't just let it go. It can't just lie there. And some years ago, I think you, Dennis, you contacted me, and then we met up in this, our European crash retrieval group. Yeah. And we started talking about, So this is a hobby thing. On the side of the astronomy, we are interested in looking into these crash retrieval cases. So,
and do I understand correctly that so once you connected with Dennis on the latest expedition, you were somewhat involved? Were you involved, and if so, did you go out on the ocean with them?
No, I'm involved in every step except for going on the ocean. There's nothing that can put me on a small boat.
Why? That sounds like Dennis. I'll come work in the galley. I'll cook for you. I would love to be on something like that. Yeah. That wasn't of interest?
Yeah, of course.
Motion sickness.
Oh yeah, we last time we were out, or the first time this year, we have a crew with us, our camera guys, and even the captain got seasick.
Oh, okay.
So it was quite tough. And I said to them, have you been these film guys with the cameras and everything? And I said to them, have you been out on the sea? Yeah, we have been out on the sea, no problem. And then I look at them, they're turning green, more and more green. And I ask
So,
them, I have medicine for that. I have the things for it. No, it's okay. And then they begin to puke a lot.
okay. So Beatrice, maybe it was a good thing you didn't end up going on this
Yeah.
thing.
I'll stay on land.
Okay, yeah, I certainly understand that. So Beatrice, as a scientist, looking at these photos that we showed earlier from Dennis, I mean, this thing is obviously not some sort of bizarre geological formation. Would you agree?
Well, I'm not a geologist, so I cannot say whether it's something geological or not, because that's outside my specialty. But to me, it looks like very non-random structures. So, of course, to me, it looks artificial to my non-geologist eyes. And that's why I'm curious to know what it is. For me, this is like a perfect candidate for an NHI artifact, for a non-human intelligence artifact, because we need to start somewhere, and this is maybe the best case we have of something that could be such an artifact. And then I would like to study it because it looks to me fascinating. I mean, the corridors, the right angles you have there, and all these things that always equipment fails. Dennis, you have to tell about it. Like even last times when you had the two expeditions, all this equipment failure.
Yes.
I find it fascinating.
And Dennis, go into that in a little bit more depth in terms of what equipment failed and sort of like what were the symptoms? Did they lose power? Was data corrupted? And did this also occur in the latest mission? The same. Okay, and it occurred in the first one as well, right?
Yes, every time we were out almost. So even this last mission and the mission before that, this year, we had problems. And I remember we're using now another ship, Stockholm University's vessel ship. We're using this time. And I remember on our way out, I talked to the captain about my experience out there. And then when we were out at the object, they said to me, Dennis, we're going to start now using the multi-beam for taking a 3D image of it. So yes, then I begin to, prepare myself for it. And then we go over the object and we lose GPS connection directly.
Okay.
And he said to me, Dennis, we are losing the GPS position. Okay. I was a little surprised, I must say. And even he got surprised about it. And I asked him, usually that's happened out there? No, Dennis says, no, nothing like that is happening. And then we're going around and go back again, and we come to the spot, and he's losing it again, the connection with the GPS. So second time, and that was the GPS position system that we lost. But we had it again, and then when we were ready with the multi-beam, we anchor up for using the ROV, and we have a team from Germany on the boat, scientists, and they're going to start with their ROV, and he going down to the object, and then blackout. It's not working. Take it up and look at it and see what's wrong with it. He cannot find anything wrong with it. It starts up again and in the water again. And then the same problem again. It's not working. So he gives up. And then my turn. I starting up my system with the ROV.
It's an underwater robot.
Yeah,
say that again?
robot.
Underwater robot.
Okay.
One thing you send down to make photos.
Yeah. And then I start up that and going down and coming down to 60 meters over the object, and then it's blackout totally. It's not working, and I was quite surprised, I must say, because that is a brand new ROV, and I have used it on shipwrecks and tested it and so on and calibrated it. And put lots of time on it, and it's not working. And then I take it up and check all the logs and see if I can find any errors. Nothing at all, nothing. So I start it up again, and it starts, and down again, and coming down to 40 meters, I was blackout again. It's not working. So yeah, so even this year, this time we were out, we had problems with the equipment.
And this was a different ship than the first time this occurred.
Yes.
Different ship, different equipment.
Before it was, yeah.
And they went without a transponder, so I was nervous for 12 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. And did you have any other sensing equipment, such as radiation detectors, or did it affect the magnetic compasses at all? Was there anything that you detected that looked like any sort of intentional electronic interference?
No, not this time. And now the scientists have seen it themselves when they have been out, and are very curious about it. So next time we're going to go out, we're going to have that type of instrument with us. So, I mean, this two first mission we had, they were like, first mission, they was, okay, this is probably something nature have created. And then when they were out there and look at it, they were surprised, very surprised. They have never seen anything like that. And then with all the failures with the equipment, they begin to understand this is something really interesting. So, and all the data we have now. So next time we're going to go out in the spring, we're going to have that type of equipment with us. And as I mentioned, we're going to do also core drilling.
Okay. And when the equipment failed, would it recover and turn back on, or were you not able to use it?
When I was at home and I look at my ROV I had with me and used, I cannot find anything, any errors on it. It works fine. And I live out in the archipelago, so I go down here and just test it, and works fine, but not there.
So my question is, you get there and this particular piece of equipment fails.
Yep.
Did it, like 15 minutes later, did it turn back on? Were you able to use any of this stuff that failed at all? Did it recover from the failure?
Yeah, of course, it works. It works fine. The thing was that when the first time I went down with my ROV to 60 meters, it was blackout. I take it up and look at all the data, cannot find any error at all. And I put in the water again. And then after coming down to 40 meters, and then I get the blackout again. And I take it up, no errors, nothing wrong with it. But I give up because it's not working. And so when I was home, I going through all the data and all the logs from the ROV, and nothing. I cannot find any errors at all, more than it's turning off totally.
It's interesting. I don't know if either of you have watched the TV show Skinwalker Ranch. Are you both familiar with it, or familiar with the site?
Yeah.
Dennis,
I seen a little bit because
Because
I'm from there, so then I checked.
So, so for folks at home that are watching that aren't familiar with this is a show, I think it's on the History Channel, but it's about this ranch in the Unitah Basin in Utah. And there clearly is some kind of large anomalous object buried underneath. And what is really fascinating, Dennis and Beatriz, is it sounds like they, of course, this is all above ground, they're not in the ocean, but they're experiencing the same kind of equipment failures that are completely unexplainable. And often these failures seem to occur right when they begin to start these experiments. But it sounds like, Dennis, you're experiencing the same kind of behavior just in the ocean as opposed to land. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
I'm
weird.
so yeah, it's weird. You know, I have never experienced anything like that before when we have been out on the sea. I mean, even if we have been Caribbean or whatever, never ever we had that type of problem with our equipment. And also when we are diving, we have problems with the light system we have lights with us on the cameras. Even that is not working properly either. It's turning off, and the cameras, the GoPro cameras, turning off, and so on. So
Did you ever experience any batteries being drained?
no, no, not really. No,
Okay.
just
Okay.
just blackout.
That's yeah. So Beatriz, when you heard about all this kind of stuff, did this, especially after sort of being into the UAP thing and studying the phenomena, was any of this a surprise to you that Dennis was experiencing this on the ship?
It just makes it more interesting, and it gives more like motivation to go to like continue the research and do a good study. And like I'm really hoping that we can get the underwater robots to work so that we can get actually close-up imaging.
Is it
Great.
and Dennis, and I know nothing about the ocean other than when I was a kid I wanted to be a pirate. Is this thing too deep for somebody to dive? Like
No, no, of course you can dive down there.
you can,
There's no,
okay.
but it's 90 meters. You must use or we are using a rebreather system.
Okay.
So, but still the visibility down there is like 30 centimeters or 1 meters if you're lucky.
Wow.
So it's a bad visibility. It's not
And
as it is in Caribbean.
and is that kind of lack of visibility, is that normal in that part of the ocean, and is it related to the
Yeah,
time of
it
year
is.
at all? That is normal.
No, that's normal.
Okay.
It's bad
Okay.
visibility out there.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that is just really bizarre. I'm curious, Dennis and Beatriz, have you noticed any sort of interest in this anomaly from the government or the military, anything like that? Have they reached out to you and said, "Hey, Dennis, what are you finding? Can you send us your data?" What's happened with that, if any?
When it's come to the military, after we founded 2011, we had meetings with on the headquarters in military in Sweden, Stockholm, and they were quite surprised and interested, of course, in it. What we have, what we have found and what our plan is, and I remember when I was out on the sea, we had lots of ship around us, lurking around, and and I mentioned that on the headquarters. One of the generals, if I can say so, for the Navy. And I said to them, you have been out there and were very close to us. What do you know about that? No, I don't know anything about that. Yeah, of course you
You're
know,
right.
because I have filmed that also. And remember, this is on Finnish economic zone. It's not
Okay.
on Swedish water or international water. It's Finnish economic zone. And it was Navy ships from France, Germany, England, and Sweden at the spot. And I think it was Americans also there, but I'm not sure. But that lots of ship was around us when we are there.
So clearly they're interested in what you're finding.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you get the impression at all that they may have known all along this thing was there, or do you think it was likely a surprise to them as well?
That I don't know, but I'm quite sure they have been there and dive and done their own they're taking a look at it and themselves on it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I would not be surprised. And Beatriz, does that surprise you that the government would, from these various countries would be interested in this thing.
No, that seems totally normal, because I think they have a huge interest into this topic, very big interest into this topic. So I think also now they're following everything Dennis is doing, and when it comes to this project, we are just already we normalize it by now.
Right. Yeah. So you both are on the radar with this project. That's for sure. So Beatriz, before we get to you, just want to take a quick break. Folks, over half of you watching right now are not subscribers. So please do us a solid, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. All those little things that you hear other YouTube shows do, that actually signals YouTube that people actually like the show, and they start organically recommending it to people that don't normally follow this topic. So anyway, we would really appreciate that. We're also on all the major social media platforms. And of course, we always appreciate anyone that wants to support us on Patreon. We're at www.patreon.com/The Good Trouble Show. We do not have sponsors, so we pay the rent for this place strictly by people like you watching. And of course, super chats are open. We always appreciate your financial support, and please tell your friends about this show. Help us grow the show. So with that out of the way, Beatriz, let's get back to you. Vanishing objects. So tell us about these plates, these astronomical plates. We've had you on the show to discuss your findings before, but for people that may be new to this, walk us through what you discovered.
So we have been finding flashes on old images from the early 1950s, and this is before the first human satellite was launched into space, which happened in 1957. So we see these flashes, sometimes multiples of them, but if we just look at the northern hemisphere, we have something like 107,000 of these flashes. And you can see them in one image, but you can't find them later. And so it looks like something that just flashes up for maybe a second or even less. And the question is what is it? The funny thing here is that these flashes, in many ways, they remind of the flashes that we see on the night sky today, but flashes that are strictly associated with artificial objects, that you have some, let's say, sunlight reflection of a very flat and very mirror-like surface, so something that is extremely reflective and super flat. And then you can get this kind of very short, brief flashes of less than a second. But how can it happen before 1957? And that's how I got into this topic. Before 2021, when we found a cluster of these things, I was never even thinking of the idea of that there might be UFOs in data. But then when we saw this, we saw 9 objects that were there and they weren't there later, then we start saying, could this be that we are seeing this kind of flashes? We didn't know exactly why. Was it some kind of contamination? Maybe there were some kind of plate defects, but maybe this was real. So we started looking for higher confidence examples, better examples, cleaner examples, things where you can see them in a line or in a narrow band that would be extremely unlikely that they would arrange them that way. And we started doing these kind of searches for much better candidates. And we did find these candidates. Today, we've learned much more about these transients, or these flashes. I call them transients very often. We know that they correlate with nuclear bomb tests in time. They correlate in time with UFO sightings. And there is a serious deficit of them in the Earth's shadow, which supports that they are actually solar reflections. And I'm getting the criticism from astronomers who say, no, it has to be plate defects, because look at this paper. There's this paper by Hambly and Blair that is saying that these flashes that you saw on the old plate, the first plate that you ever found in 2021, that they are more narrow, more sharper and more round. But the thing is that what they don't think about is that this is exactly also what we expect if you have a short flash in a 50-minute long exposure. Because this short flash, of course, the profile is not going to be the same as stars that are exposed for 50 minutes. and we have much more atmosphere moving and wind and all the stuff. So, and most importantly, plate defects are not going to avoid the Earth's shadow because they don't know where it is on the plate, while we see this serious deficit of these transients in the Earth's shadow. So for me, yes, that rules it out. These things are real flashes from something reflecting the sunlight in orbit around the Earth that doesn't look entirely round. That looks very, let's say, artificial.
And that was going to be my next question. Like, what is the shape, and are you able to discern the size of it, or is that possible with a 2D plate?
I think we are going to need to do much more work because right now we have some sort of information. We can see a serious deficit at 42,000 kilometers. We can see it also at 80,000 kilometers altitude. We do know from the way how these flashes look today, if we look at modern telescopes, and there is this paper by Guy Neer where they are looking on these flashes. You see the number of these flashes, and most of them, almost all, come from this 42,000 kilometers altitude. Now, today they are counting something in these papers, I don't remember exactly, but like 1.7 flash per square degree per hour. And in our plates, we see, like when we look at the population of those that are like missing in the shadow, then it's something like 1.1 flash per hour per square degree. So I assume this means that many of them are there at geosynchronous orbits, and maybe many of those that you are looking at today that you believe is human space trash have been there since before the 1957.
And how many of these plates, or not sure how to quantify this, how many of these plates are there that indicate these anomalies?
So we have examined 635 plates from the northern hemisphere. Each one is having something like 160 flashes per plate. So it's a lot.
And are these all from a single telescope or from multiple sites?
Yes. This is from one single telescope at Mount Palomar in California. So of course I wonder, are we going to get the same result if we look at the same or similar data from another telescope from other times or the same times? I'm curious.
And do you think that you'll be able to get a hold of that, or
I hope people? So we're working on that right now. Yeah, we're working on it.
And wasn't there something where the astrophysicist, I think it was Menzel at Harvard, went and threw out a whole shit ton of these plates when he took over the department?
Yeah, that happened at Harvard Observatory. He destroyed 1/3 of all these photographic plates in like late autumn 1952. And from 1953 to 1967, he also stopped the surveying of the sky. Now this gets interesting because our best candidates that we found for this like multiple transients, the thing that actually made us think, they happened it's two candidates that are happening over 2 consecutive weekends during something called the Washington 1952 UFO flap, when there were lots of UFOs seen over Washington. And Menzel is the same guy who was helping the US Air Force to debunk this entire incident.
Of course.
And he, by the way, was on a payroll with the NSA, which was shown after his death.
Sure.
So, and by the way, his name is his name is also mentioned in this very famous documents, Majestic 12, which I find super interesting, even if I don't know if all of them are authentic or not. Maybe many of them aren't. But I find there's a lot of coincidences around Professor Menzel.
Wow.
So it's an interesting story there.
Yeah. So he takes over the place. He throws out all of the plates and then stops looking. So it would be like
1/3.
Yeah, and so it'd be like somebody telling Dennis, "Oh, you found this anomaly, but don't go out to sea anymore." You know,
What?
like stop. I'm making a bad analogy. I'm basically just saying it like somebody that would be taking over the Harvard department and sees this anomalous stuff and decides to stop looking, or his boss told him to stop looking. It'd be like somebody telling you, "Oh, you found this anomalous thing. We don't want you looking at it anymore." And you know, it's sort of like this burying in your head in the sand. So it's just weird. Especially that was his job at Harvard, was to to look at stuff in the sky. Now it totally sounds like Menzel was working for the CIA. So speaking of working for the CIA and being a bullshit artist, there's this guy named Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick who was the head of the Pentagon's ARROW office, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. I understand that Sean, essentially after you did all of this work, Beatriz, went out and said, "Oh, these were just balloons observing nuclear tests." What do you say to that?
Of course, I mean, there are several points there. As first, balloons are not going to leave transients in photographic plates.
They are not.
Because they're going to leave streaks. Because we need to remember that the telescope is tracking the stars for 50 minutes. And in order for them to have a point, like points, or I mean, the shape of a star is going to be tracking those stars, and everything that is moving inside our atmosphere or that is moving fast, asteroids, all those things, they streak. Balloons would streak. And also, given that it's a 1.4 meter telescope and given the optics of Mount Palomar, if you would even have a flash inside the atmosphere, it's going to be blurry, not looking like a star. Now these flashes look like stars. So no, it's not going to be balloons. And another thing, I think that, now correct me if I'm wrong about this, but as far as I understand, they weren't using even balloons to examine, let's say, nuclear bombs of these areas, like directly after nuclear tests. Not that kind of balloons. They maybe were using tethered balloons or aircraft. And Sean Kirkpatrick was proposing that people were just confusing UFO sightings with balloons directly after nuclear bomb tests. I think there was a lot of mixed things there in his argumentation.
Yeah, a bunch of bunk coming out of Sean Kirkpatrick. Now, so Sean Kirkpatrick says, "Oh, these are balloons during nuclear tests." But you stated earlier that you detected these things during UFO sightings where there were no nuclear tests going on at the time. And did I understand that correctly?
We have done all kinds of statistics. We have also tried to, like, the largest number of flashes you get if you both have nuclear tests and you have balloons, then you get the largest number of these flashes that we see on the plates. So you can have both. But wow. I don't. These are not balloons because again they would be streaking.
Yeah.
But this is the interesting thing. Like with Scientific American, they published this commentary of or like this expert responses. Then they took in another expert response from a guy who says that this must be photographic plate defects because he examined like our first candidates. But he looked at 9 transients, and we on one plate we have 107,000 transients from 635 different plates. You can't do the extrapolation from one case to this large number. And how do you make all these plate defects vanish in the Earth's shadow? Scientific American never asked them to explain how the plate defects vanish in the Earth's shadow, of course. So they went through a lot of different alternative explanations to say that there are other explanations. But of course there are other explanations if you don't require the explanation to be correct. If you include all falsified explanations, you can have an infinite list.
Exactly.
But if you actually look at the criteria of what observational signatures do we see, then it falls down to one unique explanation that holds up at this time, and that is that we are seeing artificial objects that shouldn't be there in these old photographic plates.
Now, Dennis, I've spoken to many people, much like Beatriz, who have encountered this kind of sort of crazy pushback from other astronomers and scientists and whatnot, people that are looking in the sky for these things. As someone that is a scientist working in the ocean, do you, in your field, do you come across that same kind of stigma, or do you think it tends to sort of really be more in the realm of astronomers and astrophysicists?
No, when it's come to this anomaly, we have found this have been so difficult to convince scientists. I mean, I found it 2011, and now it's 2025. So, and I have struggling with that and try to convince scientists to go into it. But the funny thing with it, I've talked to lots of scientists, and they are very interesting to listen to me, and they but in the end they say, oh no, Dennis, this is very interesting. Yeah, I follow you, for sure I will follow this, but to put my name on this and go into this, I don't want to do that, as you understand, they say to me. And you know, because I have never ever said that it's a UFO we have found. We have find something odd. Perhaps it's constructed on the spot. We don't know.
Right.
So, but still, I need the help, because I'm not a scientist. I'm an explorer.
Okay.
I'm quite good at that. When it's come to this object, it's not a shipwreck, I can say, and I need help. But there have been from the start, really, when the news coming out, it was like a UFO stamp on it directly. And when I talked to scientists and tried to convince them, they said, "Yeah, interesting. I want to follow this, and I'm curious, but I don't want to go into it. I don't want to put my name on it, and I don't want to risk my career, my future, my job, and so on." And yeah, that's sad. But now things have changed. Things have changed for sure. I met Beatriz. She have helped me, of course, to get the right connection to continue this with scientists, and I also noticed that lots of scientists and universities around the world are interested in this topic now. Before they were very scared to go into discussion about it, but now they open the doors, and yes, it's something for sure, Dennis. It's something. So we want to go into and investigate this also. But in a couple of years ago, they said, no, we don't want to be a part of it. So it's going at the right direction.
It's like there's a difference. Like 5 years ago, people were terrified. Scientists were terrified to talk about or to work with UFOs. Now people dare to work with UFOs, but they don't dare to admit if they see something like that in their data still. They're still terrified of discussing eventual findings in their data. They prefer to censor it or filter it most. So I think we're in the right direction, but it's still, there's a lot of stigma that scientists are feeling.
And hopefully that stigma will continue to melt away. So Dennis and Beatriz, I understand that you are both planning on collaborating on more projects. Tell us about that.
Yeah, should I start?
Yes.
Wow. You know, as I mentioned from the beginning almost, I'm already convinced, and I'm burn marked when it's come to this thing, when it's come to UFO and UAPs. I have seen something that changed my life totally. And then I found this anomaly. I don't know what it is, but before that, as I mentioned, 96, that changed my life. So I cannot prove anything today, but I'm convinced myself that we have visitors, and I don't know where they're coming from, the purpose, and so on. But I want to find the proof. I want to work with nuts and bolts. I want to really find out what it is. And I know Beatriz have the same thoughts as I have. We want to really dig deep into this to find out what it is. So that's what we are planning to do, or we have begun already to work with it. And that's what I want to, my time here on Earth. Now that time I have left, I'm gonna put all the time on that, because it's so interesting and important for me. And I know it's very important for lots of people around the world who have experienced this to know what it is. And so that's my goal, to find out what it is.
I
So we will
absolutely
be
love
looking
that.
at various. We will be looking at various crash retrieval cases. We already have some other cases that is super interesting, but we don't know how we will continue with that one, and others.
Do both of you expect to find similar sort of anomalies in the ocean? Or do you think this was just a one-off?
I think there will be more. Certainly, I think there are more of these kind of objects, and we would need to map it, try to see how many others there are, and do they have the same kind of behavior with, during the examinations. I mean, one would like to make a survey and try to find, try to map each of these, like each such object that you can find on the planet, I think.
Dennis, your thoughts?
Yeah, you remember, we know, I mean, 80% of the water around the world, we have not mapped it, or we don't know anything about it, really. It's not easy, but still, it's important to begin to investigate this 80%, and perhaps it's going to take 100 years to do that, but still, we must start, because I think we're going to find lots of things.
I think so too. If they are in space and they are in our atmosphere, there are going to be a lot in the ocean too. They are probably everywhere. We will find them underground as well. We just need to dig everywhere and use all our specialities. I will look in the space, and we will need people who are specialized on helping you with the ocean, and just try to see if we can find NHI artifacts.
I agree. I love. Sure. I love what you guys are doing with this. I think this is great. And it sounds to me this is a really great partnership between Beatriz, you and Dennis. And I think it's just such a cool story that, Dennis, you inspired Beatriz as a young scientist. I mean, that I think is definitely one of your greatest gifts to the world, to be able to inspire people to become scientists and look into these things, and to look into these things without sort of the horse blinders on, to go in there and just go wherever the data leads you. Don't go in with these sort of predetermined conclusions.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, please go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so let's get to some audience questions here. First of all, I want to say thank you to KSID 2448 for the super chat donations. And KSID asks, so what kind of time frame are we looking at when we can use some sort of satellite scanners to identify everything under the oceans? Don't we have that level of tech yet?
I think it exists. The question is, how much would we need to pay for having access to the satellite data?
Dennis?
Good question. I mean, that is something we look into now. And if it works under the water, like 100 meters, I'm not sure about that, but it's perhaps possible to do that. And but that is something we are looking at now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, from our good friend David Smethurst. I love Dave. He asks some of the most intelligent questions in this field, and he's a fan and a friend of the show, I would say. So David asks, hi, Matt, Beatriz, and Dennis. Could you ask them if they think the things they have found could be from a very ancient civilization? Could there be more evidence of them in space or undersea?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely an option, because the only thing I can say when I look at this transients is that it looks artificial. This looks like artificial object, but I can't say that they come from a different planet. I can't say anything about it except for that it's artificial. It could equally be some ancient civilization that we have forgotten that existed here, that sent stuff in orbit, and it's their space trash. It's also a possibility. I can't say anything other than that it's not ours. And that it looks artificial.
Excuse me, Dennis, I was actually going to ask you earlier. I saw your interview on Jesse Michaels' American Alchemy. Huge fan of the show. Jesse does just amazing work. And one of the things I remembered from watching that show was footage of steam or something coming up from the water in that area. Tell us a bit about that. I found that was really cool.
We were on our way out to dive on it when this thing turning up in front of us, and so we were, a little afraid, but the closer we get, the bigger it gets, and it looks like black smoke coming up from the ocean over the object.
Wouldn't it, if it were a volcano, wouldn't it be white, like steam?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Wow.
So I don't know what it can be, but the scientists that we're working with now are looking into that also. So that's why it's important for us to take this core drilling to see if we can find any gas or oil or something that.
And hope it doesn't explode when we do.
Yeah, I was about to say you may not want to get too close to that thing, but I guess you kind of have to.
Yeah, we must take this core drilling and do that, and it's risks also with it. But in this case, we have scientists that have the experience with us, so I hope they're doing right.
I certainly hope so too. Obviously, we want you to be safe and have a safe and successful voyage, whatever and whatever those tests are that you're going to do. This is from Skywatch Signal. Beatriz, do you think that it's possible the transients are a breakaway civilization from Earth that are monitoring us? Is it something that you have considered?
Yes, that's a possibility. That one imagines this as a surveillance network, that you have so many of them, and it's just small little objects and many of them.
Let's see, News Martin. Go ahead, Dennis.
These things in the sky can have been there for hundreds of thousands of years. It's possible. It's the same thing with the Baltic Sea anomaly. It can be a structure of something that is built there before the Ice Age.
Okay, yeah.
So.
I'm curious, with the smoke or whatever this was coming out of the ocean, was there any smell associated with it?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay, and it wasn't like all of a sudden you guys were having a difficult time breathing on the ship or anything of that nature?
Nope.
Wow,
no.
Okay.
You were quite far away from it also.
Yeah, it was far away.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that was probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd want to be right on top of that when that thing goes off. News Martin asks, Dennis, how long do you think it could have been there? And you just said it could have been before the Ice Age. Will this core drilling give you any sort of scientific data that would help determine that?
Hopefully. I think it will. We're going to get perhaps a time when it was created or built there, and also this track we have on the bottom. When was that created? Is it layers or is it just one layer? That is very interesting to see, because it's only one layer in this track. That means it's something that is made in one time. It's not built up.
Okay.
So sorry, my Swinglish. My English. I'm tired also. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I appreciate it. I know it's late where you guys are at. Hack Film is asking, Dennis, when will the new and better data be presented?
Oh yeah, hopefully. Oh yeah, hopefully. Next year in the summer, hopefully.
Oh wow, so soon.
We need to win over the circumstances with all these instruments crashing, and we need to get those images with the underwater robots, close-up images.
Yeah, no, for
But
sure.
but important to say to all the viewers now that we have already we have very, very good data and fantastic data. That's also good because the scientists want to go out again. They are very, very curious, and that's a good sign when it's come to this. So, but as you know, now it's scientists are working with this. I cannot go out with pictures and data now and say that's that and that I believe in that. It's better that we have the report in the end of it that is correct. And yeah, so it's good. It's a good start.
It is a good start. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate both of you coming on the show. I know it's late where you guys are at. Dennis, how can folks at home follow your work and support your work on examining this anomaly?
Come here to Sweden. No, I just joking. No, no. Of course we have
Dennis
our
World.
Dennis World. Yeah, I forgot. I'm so empty in my head now. So
No problem.
I have Dennis World. It's on Facebook, and I have it also on Spotify. And of course, I'm on X also, Dennis Asberg in Swedish then. But so you can follow me there. You can find me, and also on the webpage oceanexplorer.se. You can find lots of pictures and the Instagram, of course. And I'm very open with everything I do. Even before I found this anomalies, everything I do, I'm open with it. So I think it's important to people to really understand what we are doing and make them curious also. Because I'm a curious guy, I'm an explorer, and I don't give up, and I want to get more people into it and to be curious about it.
Well, you've clearly inspired Beatriz with your sense of curiosity. So
Yeah.
you know, just on the left side of the screen here, that's a prime example of the effect that you've had on people. So Beatriz, how can folks at home follow your work?
Actually, all the new updates I actually also gave to Dennis, and he interviews me in the Dennis World if there's something new. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
it's the easiest way. Since we now collaborate, I let Dennis help me with the outreach.
But
Because
Beatriz
I'm
must
not very-
change because Beatriz, we do it lots in quite a
Yes.
lot Swedish.
That's
The
true.
problem. You must do it in English now or Swinglish.
Okay, we'll do it in Swinglish.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious, what time is it there right now?
Oh,
The night is young.
yeah.
Well, anyway, regardless, I appreciate both of you staying up so late. And Dennis, like I said, I'm a really good cook. I make mean French toast. So I'll come work on the boat, work on the galley. I'll cook breakfast for everyone. But whether they can keep the breakfast down and not throw it overboard, that's a different story. I wouldn't be able to control that. But at least the food would be good.
You're welcome.
Okay, great.
No
All right, very
problem.
good. Well, thank you very much, Beatriz Villarroel and Dennis Asberg. Thank you both, and thank you for being the scientist that all scientists should be, which is open-minded, inspirational, not full of stigma or propagating stigma. You both are just really wonderful examples, and we really appreciate what you're doing and cannot wait to hear what you find both in the sky and in the ocean. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, well, yeah, that was fantastic. Just going to mute their audio here. I just when I see people like this, it inspires me. I had Dr. Avi Loeb on not too long ago to speak about 3i Atlas, and he's yet another example of scientists and explorers that approach things with an open mind, that approach things without this preconceived notion, that approach things in their studies, whether it's looking for sunken ships like Dennis and this anomaly, or Beatriz with her plates. they're going wherever the data takes them. And you notice Dennis didn't say, "Oh, this is a UAP," or he didn't say, "Oh, this is the Millennium Falcon and Chewbacca and Han Solo are inside and cryo freeze." He's going into it with an open mind. He's going into it looking for the data, and the data is what will support or disprove any particular hypothesis. But the important thing is that he's doing it without bias. Much in the same way that Beatriz does her work without bias. She goes in and she finds these things that are the outliers. Dr. Gary Nolan has spoken about that on this show, that he's not interested in what's inside this card, this little data set area here. He wants the things that he finds interesting are the things that are the outliers. And to go and look for the outliers, that requires bravery. That requires guts. That requires going where the data leads you. That requires being fearless and not being worried about what your colleagues might think. And we see that in so many areas. I was listening to Eric Burleson and Tim Burchett on the Weaponized podcast. And Congressman Tim Burchett was talking about how he goes to these Christmas parties and people make alien probe jokes and little green men. All of that kind of stigma, all it serves to do is shut down curiosity. It's meant to shut down exploration. It's meant to shut down discovery. It's a kind of very sort of passive-aggressive way of getting people to stop looking. And it is when you see people like Dennis, when you see people like Beatriz, that's how it should be. People that don't have fear of what people are going to think about them or say about them. They're interested in the science. They're interested in where that takes them. And that takes guts, and that takes ethics. And I think that that's something that unfortunately is lacking in much of the scientific community. It is certainly lacking, I think in general. I mean, I was looking at the chat earlier, and you had one debunker on going and just trying to poo-poo everything. But this is kind of what those folks do. I brought up Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick because, of course, he has a long history of really since Arrow, of just kind of spewing out nothing but a bunch of garbage to try and debunk anything and everything, whether it's disparaging whistleblowers or attacking members of Congress, as Sean Kirkpatrick did with Anna Paulina Luna and the rest of the UAP caucus. But the thing with the balloons, with Sean Kirkpatrick and what he was saying in terms of what Beatriz had found, this is what's called information operations, or IO. That's what it's called in the defense and intelligence community. So when Sean Kirkpatrick is going out there and saying that, he's really running an intelligence op. He's running an information op. He is running what's called perception management or narrative shaping. People in general, when they are faced with, let's say, something that is a complicated sight picture, the best way you can throw somebody off and do narrative shaping is to put out the simplest, easiest explanation that somebody can understand. So when Beatriz Villarroel is out there with these plates and talking about the Earth shadow and this happening during UFO stuff and this, that, and the other, which is all important data, when you have somebody like Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick go, "Oh, that's balloons," most of the people out there will latch on to that simple explanation. When Sean Kirkpatrick or Mick West or any of these fake scientists go out there and give a oversimplified answer, that is by design. They know damn well that what they are doing is is throwing people off the scent. They know damn well that when they say, oh, it's just balloons, or something ultra simple, something that to all of us, and I venture to guess that we have a very educated audience that watch this show. I know that many lawmakers watch this show, and I know many of the decision makers in Washington regarding the UAP issue watch this show. All of us that are kind of tuned into it, we know not to believe from these sort of intelligence operatives, these kind of oversimplistic explanations. But that is a information operations technique, is to put out something that is almost so ridiculously simple that all of you watching right now go, well, that's a bunch of bullshit, what Sean Kirkpatrick is saying. But unfortunately, 95% of the rest of the population who doesn't read, who doesn't stop and listen, they buy into all of that. And it's on purpose. This is not Sean Kirkpatrick being flippant or Mick West or any of these other folks that go and shovel this crap to everyone, basically just gaslighting everyone. This is what they do. Another prime example, and I forgot exactly what it was, but Sean Kirkpatrick, back when he was running Arrow, put out this explanation that many or some particular incidents, UAP incidents that they studied, they determined were what are called film balloons. So I've worked in Hollywood for 30 plus years. I have 2 Emmys. I've done all kinds of stuff. What he was saying was these big helium balloons, and essentially what these things are used for, there are these giant helium balloons that have a light source inside of it, and you fill it up with helium. So let's say you have like a giant ballroom for a film shoot you need to light. You hire a company that makes these balloons, that have technicians that handle these balloons. They show up on your film shoot, they bring the balloon, they bring the helium, they bring all of the electrical equipment, they inflate this helium balloon and it goes up to the ceiling, they turn the light on and it illuminates the area. Now, Sean Kirkpatrick told everybody and lawmakers that, oh, these were all film balloons. But what Sean Kirkpatrick didn't tell you is that these balloons weigh they weigh a ton, because you have a very, very thick cable. Back when the cases that he was trying to debunk, this was all before LED. So this was, you would have for these balloons, you would feed them 6,000 up to 12,000 watts of power. And the cable that would feed these things was, probably about as big as my thumb. But the cable is extremely heavy. And the light sources during that period that Sean Kirkpatrick of Arrow was saying that these things were film balloons, batteries didn't exist for that kind of application back then. So here, the head of a government agency, the head of Arrow, this supposed doctor that supposedly knows what he's talking about, that is supposedly scientifically accomplished, is going and telling lawmakers and the public that all of these are film balloons. Basically, what he was saying was these film balloons, and I think it was in Florida, that some of them got loose. These balloons that cost $10,000, $20,000 and are usually around about $1,000 to $2,000 a day to rent, not to mention the people that come with the balloon technicians that are probably $500 to $750 a day per person. He's saying, or he said, that these balloons just got loose. And that again is, it is amazing. Arrow, the Department of War, the Department of Defense, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, it is nothing more than a bullshit factory from the Pentagon. People in D.C., lawmakers and staffers, you cannot believe one single thing that the Pentagon is telling you about the UFO issue. Because I can tell you this, they are flat out lying. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, as putting out that kind of sort of scientific garbage, either about balloons or oversimplifications of Beatriz Villarroel's scientific findings, Sean is no dummy. He is a smart individual. So then you have to ask yourself, why would Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick blatantly lie to members of Congress about these things that he said were nothing more than film balloons? Why would Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick blatantly lie about what Beatriz Villarreal found? The answer is simple. These people are told to do that. These people out of the Pentagon, out of the legacy program, they tell them to do that. That's what happens. Here's how the legacy program is set up. It's basically, in a way, it's almost set up exactly like a mafia. In this I can tell you is fact. So people that are going up through the DOD and the IC, somebody senior to them says, hey, there's something I want to read you into. I'm going to give you a read on into some things that only a few people get to find out about. These folks have been co-opted by this legacy program that has really kind of turned into this cancer. So what happens is they go to somebody that's about to retire out of government, and they say to them, okay, we're going to read you on to this little special thing. You are super lucky to be told about this. And what we want you to do in your remaining time in the Pentagon or in the intelligence community is to just keep doing your job. Keep doing your job. And there's going to come a time when we're going to ask a favor of you. And if you do this thing for us, when you retire out of the government, your $100,000 a year retirement is going to turn into a $500,000 a year retirement. So we want you to keep doing your job. We want you to keep being the director of Aero and do your normal thing. But when we pick up the phone and the family calls you and says, hey, we need you to kind of throw some cold water on what Beatriz Villarreal's doing, that person is going to do what the family tells them to do. The other thing that's going to happen as well is that senior person, part of that person's sort of agreement with the legacy program is they're going to go, their job is to also find two to three other people below them that are junior and give them a read on into the legacy program. So when the senior guy retires out and moves on to Battelle Memorial Institute or moves on to Oak Ridge National Laboratories, the junior people that this person before he left the Pentagon or the IC or Aero, the people that he let them in on this little kinky little secret, then they move up the ladder. And just like any criminal family, once you're in, you never get out. Once you're in, this is like an Italian crime family, Russian crime family, anything, organization. Once you're in, you're never out, because you're a made man or made woman. That is how the legacy program keeps all these people in. Because the last thing you're ever going to do is betray the program. Their job, while they are in Aero, while they are in the Pentagon, while they are in the intelligence community, their sole job is to ensure the stability and the protection of the legacy program. That's what they're supposed to do while they're there. And if they play ball, when they exit out and they still have their clearances, they're going to land wonderful jobs at Battelle. They're going to land wonderful jobs at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. That's how this system works. It is literally a revolving door. So when you see Big Daddy Ronald Moultrie, who was at OUSDINS, when he was previously at Battelle, and let me tell you, Battelle has their hands way dirty in the legacy program. Way dirty. So when Big Daddy Ronald Moultrie comes from the legacy program into OUSDINS, looking in the UAP issue, and then he retires out, and he goes back into Battelle or wherever, that's part of this machine. It's all about money, it's all about power, and it's all about control. So when you see people like Sean Kirkpatrick or Tim Phillips or these other folks that are saying stuff that is so wildly ridiculous, I mean, just asinine, how ridiculous the things that they're saying. And when you're looking at them and you're going, you know what? These guys, these are intelligence professionals. Why would they say something like that? Sean Kirkpatrick, he's got a Q clearance and he's working at the Department of Energy for Oak Ridge National Labs. Another organization, by the way, or Oak Ridge National Labs, that has their hands way dirty in the legacy program. When you hear these people say things that are just beyond or beneath them, beneath their intellect and their accomplishments and careers, that to you should be a red flag. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 when they're doing stuff like that. So when you've got Sean Kirkpatrick literally making ridiculous explanations to what an accomplished scientist such as Dr. Beatriz Villarroel has done, that's the game. That is what they're up to. And it's disgusting because the purpose of Sean Kirkpatrick, Tim Phillips, and these others who are running an information operation is to discourage people like Beatriz. They want to shame her. They want to make her embarrassed. They want to embarrass her. Why? Because they want her to stop looking. They want Beatriz to go away. They want Avi Loeb to go away. I venture to guess you'll probably at some point find similar sort of moves to make Dennis stop looking for these undersea anomalies. This is what they do. It flies in the face of every world democracy. It flies in the face of scientific curiosity. It damages the human race. Why? Because it slows progress. When you have members of the intelligence community out there running information operations and deception operations, the net effect it has, the chilling effect it has on scientific investigation, the damage that does to us as a human species is incalculable. And it is on purpose. It is not by accident that these people are doing this. When you have Tim Phillips, the former deputy director of AARO, who then took the job of director of AARO, when you have him going on a podcast and saying, "Oh yeah, these things we have ships that defy anything that anybody else has." He said in one of his quotes, "We have stuff the size of a Klingon battle cruiser." So you think to yourself, okay, so here's Tim Phillips, a career intelligence official who has TSSCI clearance. He certainly has full scope poly, a man that has built his career in the intelligence community, who probably has a fat ass retirement sitting in the bank. You're telling me that he's going to go on some UFO podcast and disclose classified information about special access programs of aircraft or craft that we've developed that are as big as a Klingon battle cruiser? You really think that someone like him, who has all kinds of read-ons, is going to make that kind of mistake? He's going to be that loose. It's not like he's like telling his wife this. He's telling all these people out in the world about these classified programs that we supposedly have that Sean and Tim are saying, all these UFOs we're seeing, that's all Blue Force stuff. That's all of us. That's all of our stuff. He's shoveling shit. You can't tell me for a minute that a career intelligence official who knows damn well if he makes an unauthorized disclosure, he's going to lose his pension, he's going to possibly go to Leavenworth, he's going to lose all of his clearances. You're telling me that he's going to go on a podcast and say all of that stuff? Of course not. He's not going to do that unless he has top cover. He's not going to do that unless somebody from the legacy program says, look, you're going to take a hit here, you're going to get a bad report, you may even get a flag on your clearance, but don't worry, we're going to take care of that. And what do these people do? They salute and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and they accomplish the mission that they've been given. That's the way this works. And it's got to come to a stop. One of the things I listened to on the Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and the great George Knapp, when they were interviewing these members of Congress, was they basically said, we're kind of hitting the end of the road. We're getting stonewalled. The Pentagon isn't giving us access to this. So we're considering maybe no longer having any hearings for the foreseeable future because we're not going to get any hard evidence. Representative Burleson, Representative Burchett, Representative Luna, Representative Moskowitz, that is what they want. That is what these people want. That is what the Department of Defense and the CIA and the Department of Energy want. They want you to stop holding hearings. Why? Because when you hold hearings, what it does is it continually snowballs. It continually raises awareness. It keeps the topic alive. It keeps it alive out of UFO land or whatever you want to call it. That is the purpose. So please, Representative Luna, Representative Burchett, Jared Moskowitz, Eric Burleson, don't give in to that. That is what they want you to do. They want you to stop looking. They want everyone to stop looking. They want all of you in Congress to stop asking questions. They want scientists such as Dr. Beatriz Villarroel to stop doing her research. They want Dennis Asberg to stop looking for anomalies. They want to shut down the conversation. And you can't give in. You can't let them. All of you are better than that. And all of you are trying to do the right thing, and I know all of you have expended enormous amounts of political capital. But those of you in Congress that are doing the right thing, when all of this comes out, and it will, all of you, members of Congress, Burleson, Burchett, Gillibrand, Schumer, all of you, I know I'm missing names, you guys will be the ones that will be remembered. And you know who else will be remembered? Are the members of Congress that obfuscated, that blocked this. You know who else will be remembered? Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, Tim Phillips, and others, the bad actors in Arrow. And let me tell you, there are some bad actors in Arrow whose job is to fuck things up. That is what they're there for. Those people will be remembered too. So what side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the side of people like Beatriz Villarroel or Dennis Asberg or Avi Loeb or Eric Burleson or Anna Paulina Luna or Tim Burchett or Jared Moskowitz? People that are doing the right thing, that have no fear, and are simply interested in where the data takes them. That's the lawmakers you want to be, and you will be remembered in American history. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed our show, you're going to love this episode that is coming up. Thank you for tuning in. And if you love our channel, please hit that subscribe button. And we will certainly see you here next time on The Good Trouble Show. We'll be taking a little break with the holidays, but we do have a couple other interviews that will be coming up to close things out. But we appreciate everybody being here, and call your congressman, let them know, keep the hearings coming. Thanks for tuning in.